Yes, children. Last time we learnt in the life under Mauryas and the Mauryan Empire, we learnt about two kings. That was Chandragupta and Ashoka. And today I am going to tell you about life under the Mauryas. And this chapter is basically based on the administration. That is what kind of administration they had. The Mauryas, their central administration, their provincial administration, and what kind of welfare measures they took, what was the taxation system, and the spy system. All this we are going to learn today in this chapter. So I hope the children who missed it, please you just go over this video and you will understand it stepwise. And the meanings I give you, please note them down. These are very important. As you know, the terms I gave, the historical terms, they are related to the chapter and they do come in the exams. So please note them down. Now, life under the Mauryas, this is basically about the administration. Now, the Mauryan kings like Chandragupta and Ashoka were influenced. They were influenced by the great religious teachings of their times. Both Ashoka and Chandragupta Maurya, the modern kings, they were influenced, they were impressed with the religious teachings of their times. They ruled for the welfare of their subjects. Both the kings, they ruled for the welfare of their subjects, for the well-being of their subjects, the people. People could approach them in person with their problems. If any person had any problem, he could go to the king and approach him in person. They had special days when they used to have a special court for the common people. As stated in the Arthashastra, in the happiness of his subject lies the king's happiness. In the happiness of his subjects lies the king's happiness. That if the subjects are happy, the king is also happy. So this is stated in the Arthashastra. And in their welfare, his welfare. He shall not consider as good only that which pleases him, but treat as beneficial to him whatever pleases his subjects. That means the king has to be happy in whatever pleases his subjects and in the welfare of his subjects. Subjects are his people, okay? His happiness lies. Now, historians have learnt about the administration and way of life under the Mauryas. Now, how do we come to know about the administration and way of life under the Mauryas? The historians were not over there, but how do they know about it? The historians, they know about it from books like Indika and Arthashastra, Jain and Buddhist texts, and the Ashokan pillars and rock edicts. So all this they come to know from these things: the Ashokan pillars, rock edicts, Arthashastra, Indika, Jain, and Buddhist texts. Now the central administration, the main administration from the capital. Modern administration was centralized, which means all authority was in the hands of one person. In this case, the king. Central administration means that all power was in the hand of the king, and he was the supreme power. He was the commander in chief of the armed forces and the chief justice of the land. He was the judge as well as he was the judge, and he acted also as the commander in chief of the army. The king was assisted in his work by a council of ministers. In his work, he was assisted by a council of ministers called the Mantri Parishad, whose advice, however, was not binding on the king. Binding on the king means that they did give their advice, but it was not necessary that the king had to always take it. Only if he considered it that it was good and it was important and he thought it would be beneficial, then only he used to take. Always, he never used to take. It was not binding on him. Each minister was in charge of a particular department. Every minister who was a part of the Mantri Parishad, he was in charge of a special department like revenue, okay, agriculture, defense, charity, etc. The ministers in turn were assisted by a large number of officials, and these ministers in turn, they were assisted by a large number of officials. Now this was the central administration, and then we have the provincial administration. The empire, it was divided into provinces, or the empire, it was divided into provinces, and each province was placed under a governor. In the provincial administration, the empire was divided into small provinces, and each province, it was placed under a governor who in most cases was a member of the royal family, and this governor, he belonged mostly to the royal family. The provinces were divided into districts, and these provinces then, they were divided into districts. District is a particular area of a town or region. District is a particular area of a town or region. So the provinces were divided into district, and each district was placed under an official called the Sthanika, and the officer in charge of these district was called the Sthanika. The districts in turn were divided into villages. Then the districts after that, they were divided into villages which were placed under a gopa. The head was a gopa of the village. The basic structure and nature of administration remained more or less unchanged throughout the modern period. Throughout the modern period, the same type of administration was there, and it remained the same, but only some minor changes were there. Now, Patliputra, it was the capital of the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan court was located at Kumarahar near Patna. This was the heart and what was known as Patliputra, the capital city. Always, you know, that in the country, the capital is always the heart of the country. It is placed at a place, it is always situated at such a place where it is center, and all the states and all the towns and cities are near to it, and it is the center of the country. So in the same way, Patliputra, it was the capital city, and Megasthenes was very impressed by the grandeur of the city and the efficiency of administration. He was really impressed, and Megasthenes, he was really impressed by the grandeur of the city and with the efficient administration of the modern kings. Grandeur means splendor or high social status. Grandeur means splendor or high social status. Patliputra was situated on the banks of the river Ganga, and it was defended by a deep moat all around. Patliputra on the banks of the river Ganga was surrounded by a deep moat. Moat is a wide water filled ditch around a castle or town. Moat is a wide water filled ditch which is around a castle or a tower or a town. High walls surrounded the city. Now, high walls surrounded the city of Patliputra, and it is said that these walls had 570 towers and 64 gates. Most of the houses were built of wood. Most of the houses built over there, most of the houses which were constructed at that time, they were made of wood. And at Kumarhar, we can still see the remains of the 80 pillared assembly hall and the wooden beams. The ruins are still there, and we can still see it at Kumarahar. Tower is a tall, narrow building. Tower is a tall, narrow building or part of a building. Or part of a building. And beams mean a long piece of timber. Beam is a long piece of timber or metal used as a support in a building. Used as a support in a building. So this was about Patliputra, and now we come to city administration. We have done the central administration. Just now we have done the provincial administration and about the capital Patliputra, and now we come to the city administration of the Mauryas. Patliputra and other cities like Kaushambi, Ujjain and Taxila were administered on a similar pattern. On the same, these were also the major cities of the Mauryan Empire, so they were also administered in the same pattern. The cities were divided into 4 parts, each under an official. The mayor of the city was called the Nagrika. The mayor of the city was called the Nagrika. The meaning of mayor is the elected head of a city. Mayor is the elected head of a city. So the mayor of the city was called the Nagrika, and the administration was run by 6 boards. Each board had 5 members or commissioners. Now, the administration was run by 6 boards, and each board had 5 members or commissioners. Commissioner is a representative of the highest authority in an area. Commissioner is a representative of the highest authority in an area. Each board looked after different departments. Each board had different types of functions, and they looked after different departments, namely industries, foreign matters relating to records of births and deaths, sanitation, weights and measures, and public utilities. Public utilities are the public facilities like electricity, water, roads, etc. Now, the army in the Mauryan Empire. The Mauryan Empire was very vast, very big, and could be administered well only with the help of a well-disciplined army and a good network of spies. The Mauryan Empire was very vast. It was spread over a very big area, and it could be administered very well only if it had a very efficient and a very good and a big army and a disciplined army too, And the spies also had to be very good. It should have a good network of spies are the people who just go and watch secretly. Spies are people who go and watch secretly. The Mauryan army had two functions. The Mauryan army, its two main functions were: first, expansion of the empire and defense, and second, maintenance of law and order. These were the two main functions of the Mauryan army. The soldiers, they received high and regular salaries. Regular salaries means, see, if there was war, of course they were getting the money, but if there was no war, even at peacetime, they were getting a very high and regular salary. They were armed with swords, bows, arrows, and spears. Armors were provided to soldiers. Armors are with which the soldiers protect themselves, which they wear for protection. There were also a large number of elephants in the army, and the Senapati was the head of the armed forces. Senapati, he was the head of the army and reported only to the king. He had to report only to the king. The army too was administered by six boards of 5 members each. Each board was in charge of a particular branch of the army, and each board was in charge of a particular branch of the army, that is, cavalry, horsemen, infantry, the foot soldiers, chariots, elephants, transport, and navy. So every board, it was in charge of a very, very different department. Everyone had different functions. Now, the spy system, the Mauryan rulers, they maintained a large number of spies. I told you, spies, people who watch secretly, who were spread right across the country and informed the ruler of any conspiracy or revolt. These spies, they did not stay in one place, but they were spread all over the country. And if there was any conspiracy or revolt, immediately they reported to the king. Write down the meaning of conspiracy: is a secret plan by a group, a secret plan by a group to do something unlawful. A secret plan by a group to do something unlawful. And revolt is rebel against the authority. Rebel against the authority. And I told you, armor is a metal covering to protect the body in battle. Armor is a metal covering to protect the body in the battle. And spear, they use spears. What is spear? Spear is a weapon with a pointed metal tip. Spear is a weapon with a pointed metal tip. So we have done all this, children. I hope you really enjoyed it. I'm just going to do welfare measures with you, okay? And the remaining I will do in the next video. Now, the welfare measures. Welfare measures were for the subjects. Since the time of Chandragupta, great stress was laid on the construction of roads, wells, rest houses, and canals. Pliny, a foreign traveler, described the royal highway connecting Patliputra in the east with Taxila in the northwest. A good network of roads was essential. Essential means important, required, not only for quick movement of troops. Troops are the soldiers from one region to another, but also for promoting trade between regions. So a good network of road was very important, not only so that the troops move from one region to another very quickly, but also for the promotion of trade. Ashoka planted fruit bearing trees on both sides of the roads for the comfort of travelers, and he set up hospitals for the sick and made provisions for irrigation. And all this Ashoka did for the welfare of his people. He set up hospitals for the sick, and he also made provisions. Provision means he made the people very comfortable, and he made provisions for irrigation, so that the irrigation water reached. Irrigation is when there's no rain, so that we give water to the fields through artificial, yes, through artificial means. So the irrigation water reached the fields when there was no rain, and that was very, very good, through canals. Okay, I hope, children, you've understood this video, and please note down the meanings, go through them, and then after that, after a few days, I will be sending the second part of the chapter. Bye bye, children, and stay safe.